It turns out that Donald Trump is having a problem with a part of his base. Now, white, older voters helped Donald Trump to get the presidency. They helped the Republican Party overall. But now, an even more narrower portion, white, educated, older voters are starting to turn on the Republicans. So we have that story from Reuters. Nationwide, whites over the age of 60 with college degrees now favor Democrats over Republicans for Congress by a 2-point margin, according to a Reuters Ipsos opinion polling during the first 3 months of the year. Well, you might think, well, Cenk, that's not that big a deal. It's just a 2-point margin, and they're educated. I mean, it's not that surprising that more educated voters would go against the party of Donald Trump. But it turns out, no, it is surprising. Let me give you context. During the same period in 2016, that same group favored Republicans for Congress by 10 percentage points. Now, I can do the math for you. That one's not complicated. That's a 12-point swing nationally among a group that is very important for the Republicans to keep. They're in a world of trouble. All right, I'm not the only one saying it. A lot of political scientists and pollsters are saying it. Here's very well-known Larry Sabato saying the real core for the Republicans is white, older white, and if they're losing ground there, they're going to have a tsunami. He's a political scientist at UVA. He went on to say, if that continues to November, they're toast. He's not alone. Here comes Frank Luntz, probably the best known Republican pollster. Here he is on Fox News.
Let's go on record. I think the Republicans are in deep trouble in the House and the Senate as well. If the election were held today, frankly, I think Republicans would lose both.
Look, some people think there's a chance they could lose the House. The Senate is a smaller margin, it's just 51 to 49, but most of the people that are up for re-election happen to be Democrats in this case, and in some states that Trump won. So the conventional wisdom was, nah, the Democrats can't win the Senate back. It's just too hard given the elections in this cycle. Apparently not hard enough, because here are Republican pollsters, neutral pollsters and political scientists saying they might be toast. Fascinating. Well, how do the Republicans respond to this? Asked about the swing, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel cited robust fundraising. Oh, I love that. In other words, we're rich, don't worry about it, we'll just buy the elections. We'll get all those corporations that we gave tax cuts to give us millions upon millions of dollars like they do every time, which is true, they will. And then we'll run deceptive advertising pretending we're for the average guy. So problem solved. And by the way, in the past, that has largely worked. But we have not seen swings of this magnitude before. Look, I'm showing you a demographic that was pro-Trump, pro-Republican Party. In the demographics that were never for Trump, it is disastrous news for the Republicans. They've lost almost all African Americans. They've lost a giant chunk of women, even women who voted for Donald Trump and apparently now regret it. Not all of them, of course, but a big enough percentage that it could easily swing elections. In fact, we've seen elections, forget the Alabama Senate race because it had Roy Moore in it and that's a unique case. But in Pennsylvania, a district that was solidly 19 points in favor of the Republicans, gone. So it really could be a tsunami here. One more quote from Reuters, the potential impact of any swing to Democrats is magnified given that older educated adults are reliable voters. They also make up a sizable portion of the voting population in many districts where elections are close. And that's just a coincidence, but that is relevant to the elections that are coming up, especially in the House. Now, not only are they an important base for Trump that is now leaving him and the Republican Party, but they also are voters above the age of 60 are the most reliable voters there are. So I wish younger voters were as reliable as them, and perhaps they will be now that they are energized. But losing your most reliable voters is a disastrous situation. So finally we get to the question of why. Well, it could be that they've just been watching TV, and anyone who has any kind of objectivity and an open mind can look at Trump and go, oh, this is an absolute disaster. I mean, we can talk about all the policy issues, we can cause all the damage that's been done, etc. But even things as simple as the guy not being very bright. I'm just gonna give you one example. So during this is one of my favorite things. During the Easter egg roll that he held at the White House, he didn't even know the name of the White House. Listen, even though he quotes it earlier in the sentence, watch this.
I want to thank the White House Historical Association and all of the people that worked so hard with Melania, with everybody to keep this incredible house or building or whatever you want to call it, because there really is no name for it. It is special.
Yeah, there's a name for it. It's the one you said earlier in the sentence, the White House. Painfully dumb. But yes, that certainly might be a factor, but it turns out there's an even more interesting factor as to why he's losing these specific voters. It turns out it's healthcare. And the number of people who are saying that it's their top priority has recently tripled. Now, why particularly healthcare for these older voters? Okay, I'm gonna go back to Reuters for that part of the explanation. Voters between the ages of 60 and 65 are particularly worried about healthcare, said Bridget Harrison, a political scientist at Montclair State University in New Jersey, because they are paying ever higher private health insurance premiums and are not yet eligible for Medicare. I told you, this is why Medicare for All is polling so well. This is why guys like Beto O'Rourke are running on the platform of Medicare for All in Texas, of all places, to defeat Senator Ted Cruz. So it's because people are going, let us in, let us in. We've heard from our friends, Medicare is excellent. Medicare itself polls at 77%. And now 6 out of 10 Americans saying, let us in. We know Medicare works. Not only is it better coverage, but it's also cheaper. So it turns out the Republicans thought they were geniuses by trying to destroy Obamacare. And by the way, doing the tax cuts, which then also cut Medicare. And then they threatened to cut it even further. So now the Democrats are gonna run ads on that all over the country, and they should, because that is true. And Americans like Medicare. And this whole idea of destroying anything that might get them better coverage, give them lower premiums. And the one thing they were looking forward to, attacking Medicare itself. They were sometimes literally dying to get into Medicare. Turns out has turned off the educated voters that are above 60 and white. It has even gone past that demographic advantage that Donald Trump had. If this holds, all of the pollsters and the political scientists are right. The Republicans are in deep, deep trouble in 2018. You just watched the video by the Young Turks, the home of the revolution. If you'd like to get the full show, come join us and become a member. tytnetwork.com/join.